The Titanic was not supposed to sink. It was claimed to be virtually unsinkable, according to the White Star Line. Despite this, the revolutionary liner pushed away everyone's belief in extravagant ships and turned the world's amazement to doubt about claims of invincibility in ships. The Titanic made people shy away from the White Star Line and raise uncertainty about traveling. There were over 1,500 people that perished in the terrible disaster. With so much horror and chaos, the final moments of the Ship of Dreams were hundreds of individual stories, all of them clamored together from terror, all grounded in the reality of their doom. The last hours of the Titanic are some of the most fascinating moments in the 20th century. While Titanic was available to everyone who could pay the minimum price of £20, it was really only sailing for the rich. The long 7-course meals, the cocktails, and the million-dollar dresses were casual scenes on the extravagant promenade decks of the White Star Line ships. The Titanic, being the avant-garde of the White Star Line, continued the tradition. The owner of the White Star Line, Bruce Ismay, along with Lord Peary of Harland Wolff Construction, designed the Royal Mail steamer Titanic for luxury and comfort rather than speed, and yet pushed the standards for both goals. The Titanic was booked within the first few weeks of its announcement, and with the advertisements the White Star Line proposed, who would not want to go on the Grand Titanic, the ship of dreams? With its 882.5 feet, it was practically longer than the Empire State Building was tall. The Titanic was supposed to be the best ship ever built, and it certainly lived up to its standards. With so much luxury everywhere, there was not really any dispute. The Titanic's second class was like first class anywhere else, and was acknowledged in the capitalist social society of the 20th century that to be traveling on Titanic was an enormous privilege and a great status symbol for all of the bigwigs of the pre-industrial era, the heirs to enormous gold fortunes. Sadly, many of these people were killed in the sinking of the Titanic. For example, John Jacob Astor, heir to over $150 million, the richest man on Titanic. He was crushed by one of the funnels that fell over during the destruction of the Titanic from the water pressure. In the end, money could not save him. The wealthiest people on Titanic were given little better opportunity than the second-class passengers. The third class, of course, was not lucky enough to be seen that way. They were kept below the decks where the lifeboats were being loaded, and were not given even a chance to escape from their cruel deaths. The way that the third class was kept away from the chance at life was horrifying, but true. One can hardly understand why the third class was kept away from the pandemonium of loading the lifeboats, but think to the elitist society. The chances of survival in third class was dismal because of the numerous odds, including the placement in the hull of the ship. Third class never had a chance. The Titanic was an extremely frightening event for many people, and the way that many handled it was correct only because they knew no other way. The captain thought that it was unnecessary to have a lifeboat drill. Captain Smith was not living up to his standards. When Titanic sank, it was an enormous tragedy. There was not any reason for it besides carelessness and arrogance that the virtually unsinkable ship was really unsinkable. The terror that the people went through, and the numbers reaching a total of an estimated 1,517 dead from an initial amount of over 2,200 people on board, is practically unreal. Their suffering was a mutilation of the word death. The pain was not the difference in death, because most died from hypothermia. It was from the psychological torment of the passengers during the final hours of Titanic's maiden and last voyage. The things that they saw, such as suicide, killing, and a bloodlust for survival, was etched into the faces of many passengers in the loading of the lifeboats. The insufficient number of lifeboats, however, led many into the face of death. Again, it was the carelessness of the 20th century capitalist society. Richer equaled better in their eyes. There wasn't a reason that the disaster of the Titanic should have happened, but it did. It led to the realization of what the rich were doing to the world and their negative impact. They become aware and tried to change their ways. People have had to man the radios 24/7 now, and not a single soul has been lost from a shipwreck from an iceberg since that fateful night of April 14th, 1912. The Titanic certainly taught us something, and hopefully people have realized their actions and consequences against the human race and in modern construction. The Titanic raised questions and got fewer answers, and that is due to the carelessness and arrogance of the snobbish first class and the elite traveling on the Titanic. While it was a sad event, it painted a picture of what needed to change. The Titanic, looking back, had a positive impact because it brought actions to the test, and doubts of the way of society were questioned to the limit, to the point of positive change.